Welcome to Finding Your Identity in Your Autism Journey, the podcast where we explore complexities, breakthroughs, and unfiltered realities of lives touched by autism. I'm your host, Ruth Cassell, here to guide you through heartfelt stories, expert insights, empowering conversations. Whether you are a parent, a sibling, a grandparent, an educator, or an advocate, professional in the space, this is your space to find community. Ask the hard questions and uncover new possibilities. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Finding Your Identity in Your Autism Journey. Today's podcast, we're going to share stories, strategies, and hope for families navigating autism. I'm your host, Ruth Cassell.
I am Kanika Bradford, your co-host. And today we are getting into something we experience but don't always feel safe and comfortable talking about. And that is grief and denial after receiving the diagnosis for the first time.
Yes, this is a personal one. I remember getting the diagnosis for my son, and even though, and even deep down, I already knew, that I seen or thought something was going to be, and I still had that grief, confusion, and denial. And I did go through a grieving period. So I'm just going to share a little bit about my personal experience when I got my son's diagnosis. And I don't know if you guys know, but when you have your child or when you're pregnant, you're before you even know if it's a boy or a girl, before you even you just start thinking about how their life's gonna be. You start thinking about what they're gonna do, how
Future looks like.
yes, what their future looks like. You think about proms, you think about their first car, you think about middle school,
High school.
And I know it sounds crazy, but you build an image. I know at least I did. I built an image of my unborn child before they were here. And I guess I was trying to have them live up to those expectations. And I guess maybe as parents, that's what sometimes we do.
Yeah, it's because you want the best for your child. You want your kid to be better than you.
Yes. So, I had an image of my child, and I think that's normal. I think that's a normal thing.
That all good parents or parents should have, yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously you've in previous episodes and our first episode together, you found out how they got diagnosis. Mine was during COVID and it took forever. But what I didn't tell you in that episode is how I received my son's diagnosis. So I received my son's diagnosis because it was COVID via email. No phone call, no, nothing. I went in, had the test. They said we will call you for a follow-up Zoom appointment, and we'll email you the results and we'll go over them together. Oh, I received an email, and then 3 months later got my Zoom call. So with the devastation of what I've read about my son and the image that I had, do you not think I was going through grief at that point?
Mm-hmm. Because then you start Googling everything and you start reading Google, and you don't know the terms and the acronyms. And that's something we have to break down as we keep doing this podcast, break down the acronyms. A lot of feedback is, what is ABA? What is RBT? What is a BCBA? So when you don't know and you start reading these acronyms and all these definitions and words, and you're like, whoa, what does that mean? What is that? Is this going to be the rest of my child's life?
Yeah. That's a great point. And when not only that, I had acronyms and I had referrals. but I had no idea how to even go about getting these referrals done. And I was calling the office, and I would leave voicemail after voicemail. I left emails, and I had to get very strong and stern with them. I actually sent them a legal letter through my lawyer to be able to get my Zoom call, and also to ask them, like, I was going to take it to Bay News.
Wow.
It was good. Because I was lost, and I had this image of my son, and it shattered. I'm like, I know that seems mighty extreme, but also 3 months in an email giving your diagnosis, that's also uncalled for.
Yeah.
It's very uncalled for. It's very unprofessional. And I don't want that for any other family. So I really don't recommend where we went and got his, we can talk, maybe not in this episode, but his first diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we ended up. And it did get the ball rolling, and we did get things moving with that diagnosis. So, but again, the grief, I was like, he's never going to be able to do this. He's never going to live on his own. All the dreams that I had about, him getting married, driving a car, all out the window. And I was upset.
I remember my son's first speech therapist said, "We are not going to put ceilings over him." Like with my son, when I first got the diagnosis, my speech therapist was like, "How did the appointment go?" I was like, "Yeah, it's autism." She was like, "Okay." And I was like, "But I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what's wrong." Or she was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 slow down." She was like, "We're not going to put him in a box. We're not going to put ceilings over him." She was like, "You know how many years ahead he has? We can work through it, early intervention. He will be fine."
Yes.
She had to like stop me in my tracks. I was like, "Whoa, slow down."
Yes. And I love that you had someone on your team. I had his OT on my team, and she was the one that was like, you really need to push hard on them, which I was, but also it was just devastating that I get it in an email. And then I was reading it, and like Kanika said, it was like the worst thing ever to get it in an email, because seriously, I'm like Googling everything that's like, what is this,
I'm glad I didn't get an email.
And here I am, it's COVID, everybody working from home. I remember I was working from home, I was on the phone, I was just crying all day during my shift.
Oh, no.
It was horrible. It was so bad. And I was like that for weeks. But I had to pull myself out of that hole. My husband even said to me, he's like, you can't, he's going to be fine. He's like, we got this. This is as long as, we caught it early. He's like, you're already doing stuff with him. Before he was diagnosed,
Mhm.
I had a feeling that he was on the spectrum,
I didn't know. I didn't know what the spectrum was.
So,
I didn't know.
well, I mean, I had a feeling because of how his events happened, for his past. So I had a feeling it was going to be that diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I already had been working with him. We got OT. We were trying to get speech and ABA, but with COVID again, it was very hard. We did Zoom speech, and not great.
Grieving doesn't mean you're grieving your child. It just means you are grieving a new life, new permanent changes in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and moving on from there.
And sometimes that can be painful. Grieving isn't always straightforward. There's 7 different stages of grief.
Yeah.
So, give yourself some grace as you go through this.
Yeah, and it's okay to feel your feels, to be in your feelings, as the kids say. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. It's okay to get emotional, get upset. It's okay to get a little anxious about the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
So, that being said, let go, let God.
Yes. For sure. You gotta lean in on him. That's absolutely. There's a lot of misconceptions that comes with grief. It's just not, accepting it. It's about the love that you can actually give out. The hopes and dreams that you had. And sometimes that's hard to let those go. But remember, it was in your head. You created those.
Mhm.
And even if my child didn't have autism, he was never going to be what I had imaged he was going to be in my mind anyway. He's his own person. So don't limit your child and don't limit you on changing and molding and growing with your child if they have autism or not.
And they can do things that neurotypical kids can do. They can jet ski, they can water ski, even if they're paraplegic, they can jet ski and water ski.
Yes.
They can do horseback riding, they can swim, ski. I mean, they can do all of these things that neurotypical kids do. I make sure my son is doing everything so then that way he's open to new things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll see new behaviors, but we'll work through those behaviors.
Yeah, I love that. I do the same thing. I'm always pushing. I want him to have the full, and, a lot of times I've said this in other episodes, and sometimes people wouldn't think he's capable of doing some of these things that he does do. But again, that's why Kanika and we are such great friends, is because we push our boys because we know they can.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't right now, we know that they're capable too. So, just keep that in mind. And nobody learns how to ride a bike without training wheels.
And if you did, you're, wow, you were born with a gift.
Yeah, no, get it.
Like, oh, you know what? I didn't have training wheels.
You did it?
I learned, school hard knocks. Oh, yeah. My cousin and my uncle showed me how to ride a bike. And I fell so many times. And guess what? I had to get back on that bike and ride again.
Okay,
Scraped up
but
knees.
but see, you fell off and kind of keep going, right? You had that perseverance. See?
Yes.
That's what we're building in our boys.
Yes.
We never give up on them. We don't have them give up on themselves. So,
I know what you meant. I know what you meant. You have to start from somewhere.
yes.
Some people say crawl before you walk, but there's some kids who walk first and then crawl later.
Yeah, and a lot of studies have shown that's actually a precursor to autism and a lot of things. There's a lot of research to that. There's a episode that I'm working on for that.
Oh, well, that was my son. He walked first and then crawled. And now he spins on one knee.
Really? That's
Yeah.
cool.
And that one knee has a hole in his pants all the time. Oh, Lord have mercy. So I will share my personal experience. While my son was doing early steps, there was a lady named Jane who had so many years of experience with kids with all different types of disabilities and special needs. And she was a nurse in a public school setting for years. And she was coming to the house twice a week. And she said, I think he has autism. And I was like, what? What is that? What do you mean? Is he going to be okay? She was like, oh, he'll be fine. And she has been working in the field with kids with all different types of special needs and disabilities for so many years. It was just like, yeah, he'll be okay. But me as a mom and a first time mom, I'm like, oh my gosh, is he gonna be okay? And I would ask her like every time she came over, she'd be like, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Don't worry. And she was like, you know what, just get him a diagnosis. There's a Dr. Paven that works for all children, but her office is at I'm sorry, Dr. Paven works for USF, University of South Florida, but her office is at All Children's Hospital. And she knew that doctor. So we scheduled an appointment with her, and Jane from Early Steps, came with us for our first appointment.
Well, that's nice.
Yep. She was willing to be all in. She was like, I'll go with you to your appointment. I go to all the appointments with all the kiddos. She knows me, I know her. We just know right away, yep, that kid has autism. So she met us at the All Children's office, and we did the diagnosis. And she's old school. Dr. Payment, she had a paper, pad. Sorry, she had pen and pad. And she just looked at my son line up all his cars and toys. She looked at him staring at the lights. And she looked at him daydreaming. She goes, "Oh, he has autism." I'm like, "How do you know that?" And she goes, "Oh, he's staring at the lights. He's daydreaming. He's lighting his cars up." And I'm like, and so then my husband was there and he goes, "But I was staring at the lights and I was daydreaming." But when you tell a parent that, and parents are hearing that for the first time, they're like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong? What happened? What do I do? What is that?" So when you're first getting that diagnosis, trust me, I know that feeling. You're like, "But what happened? Oh my gosh, what is that? Like, is he going to be okay?" And that was my main question. Am I going to have to take care of him for the rest of his life? No puns, sidebar, but there are a lot of grown folks who still live at home or live off of women or live off of men and not independent. So I had a cousin that reminded me of that. Ring, Washington. Oh, she's real funny. But anyway, back to the story. So Jane was like, "Oh, he'll be fine. He'll be fine." And then we got our diagnosis with the doctor that we had an appointment with like a month later. And that appointment was very intense. It was like 8 hours. There was an occupational therapist there, there was a speech therapist there, and then there was a part two. So because COVID hit, part two was virtual. But the first part, the Dr. Gardner, she gave us cards for ABA. She was like, "He needs to start ABA again, autism behavior analysis, right away." And so we started that. And then he was in a preschool in a twos because he was two. But when COVID hit, they only allowed 10 people in the class. That was a teacher and a teacher assistant. Now, my son were to stay in school, that would mean his ABA would have to come there, and then that would be the max. So my son would have made nine. No, I'm sorry, my son would have made number 10. And then therapy coming into the classroom would have been over the limit. So they ended up coming to the home. But when they came to the home, and that's when I started picking their brains and asking them like a bunch of questions and not freaking out, looking at everything I would read off of Google. Even though it's true, but when you first get that diagnosis, you don't want to believe it. As a human being, you feel like, "Oh my gosh, no, no, this can't be. This is wrong."
Or like, how could this be happening to me?
Right.
In my family.
Right. No, no, no. This can't be true. No, 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 no. It'll be okay. No, they made a mistake. No. And then you see your kids totally different. But people on the outside looking at it like, "No, Kanika." Mm-mm. My sister knew, like before he even turned one, she knew. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, oh, freaking out." Now I'm like 7 years in, well, my son will be 8 in June. I'm like 8 years in. Oh, please. Autism is like a second language. I learned it. And I'll be learning it for the rest of my life because I will always do parent training with ABA. My son has a RBT, which is a registered behavior tech that's in school with him every day. And I'm always like, "How was his day today?" And she'll say either he was good or it was not so good. So, and I do parent trainings. I'm still learning, but I'm comfortable with it now. I think it is a blessing.
I look at it too. I'm on a path where, I'm growing. I've met so many wonderful people. Um, you know, the community that we have is amazing.
Mhm.
And I don't think I would have had this experience if my son wasn't diagnosed with autism because, I wouldn't have a reason to really be, moving forward in it.
Mhm.
My son's going to be 8 in September. And, you know, although my son wasn't in ABA in the beginning because, again, from previous episode, they wouldn't accept that diagnosis. Remember, I had to go get a separate one because the insurance wouldn't pay because it was the R's and not the ADOS. So And I in the last episode that we had about that, I'll put that in the show notes too, so you guys can learn more about that as well.
Yeah.
And I have the resource list for you guys for all 50 states in that episode, which I'll also link in this episode as well, for early intervention, where they can get those information per state. Okay. But because of that, I had to take, and I'm going to give a shout out to her again, Mary Barbera. She's a world renowned BCBA. She lives in Philadelphia, and she actually helped create the verbal behavioral approach that is launched. And that is one of my favorite methods of ABA. Because it's kid friendly. And it's also, gets more down to the language, which my son has apraxia. And I do know that's why his language and comprehension is so vast. It's because of that program. Is he still nonverbal? Yes, but that's not because of the practices of ABA. It's because he's apraxic. And, knowing that, which I have a whole episode on that, and I can put that in the show notes as well, the praxic episode. So you guys can learn more about that, because sometimes it's not just autism that's hindering speech. Sometimes it's apraxia. So when you guys can learn, it's just an episode on apraxia, so you can learn more about these terms. Okay. Guys, I'm going to have also a PDF of all the acronyms. That way you guys can know what those are. There are a lot more than what we've even said here, and as we go through. So there will be a link to a PDF that you guys can download for you guys. Yes, denial often steps, we go through it because we're trying to protect ourselves, but we will grow out of it. It's normal for our nervous system to try and catch up with us. This is why we go through those things. Mm-hmm. It's actually a survival response, that overcompensation sometimes. That I know for myself, I'm very type A type personality, so I make a bunch of checklists. I am like, okay, I gotta fix it. I can do this. I'll put everything together, and this is like, I knew something was going on with my son, and we were on the wait list, and I just kept going on into his interest. I kept working with him. I kept doing things with him. And, I've had some people tell me, don't, therapist, I won't say, don't push in to his hyperlexia. Okay. So, I'll put that'll be in our description, in our acronym book as well, guys. But hyperlexia is where you can fixate on letters and numbers and really know how to read before you should know how to read. Sometimes hyperlexia, now there's 3 different types of hyperlexia. My son has hyperlexia prone 2. So that's what he has. And what that means is actually he does have comprehension. So he does understand what he is reading. And that's all I know about prone 2. I didn't look at the others because he didn't get that diagnosis. So sorry, guys. But I can put that in there, the descriptions of each one. And I really pushed into that because he liked numbers. He is great at spelling. He's only 8 years old, well, 7 years old, going on 8, and he is spelling on an 8th grade level. Oh. I can read things to him, and he spells on a letterboard, and he will also spell with magnets, and he searches things on YouTube. I know I'm not putting it in there. Someone typed it in there. It wasn't me. And then here lately, he's been downloading new apps.
Good. That's good.
So we shared these little pieces of hope because it was hard. I know it was for me. It was hard. That grief hit me very hard. But seeing how my son has grown and where he is doing and what I know he is capable of, I feel silly for having that grief like I did, but it is okay to be in that grief, isn't it, Kanika?
It's okay to not be okay.
It is.
Yeah, I always say we're not where we used to be, and we're not where we want to be. So I say we're not where we want to be, but we're not where we used to be.
Yeah.
And we're all a work in progress. We're just growing and learning. And that's with anything in life,
Mm-hmm.
We're all a work in progress.
Yes.
At least we want to change and we go with change, and that's good. And one of the things with autism is like they do like a routine, and they do like things in a certain order. Um, and change can be a little hard, or transitioning can be a little hard, but we just have to make those changes and let them go through changes and work through those changes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And that's why it's important to lean on your community, listening to things like this, listening to podcasts like this that are uplifting, that it's okay to be in this moment. We are a work in progress, like Kanika said, all of us, not just our kids.
All of us.
All of us. This is why, finding your identity on your autism journey is just because it's not about your child. It's about you trying to redirect and try to figure this all out, because you're getting hit every which way to Sunday with so many different things. You're just like overwhelmed.
And you forget to call people back.
Or text, or you think you
forget
completed
appointments because there's so much going on.
I mean, right now I'm running 9 different therapies a week plus homeschool, plus 2 extracurricular activities with my business. Like, girl, I don't even know how some days I'm doing it. I really don't.
When my son is in school, I'm like, yes, have a break. But then I feel for the teacher, his therapist, I'm like, oh God.
You're like that too. I feel like for this therapist.
Oh gosh. How was today? They'd be like, I'm like, okay, that starts going a little bit too long. And his teacher is so sweet. She is so nice. She doesn't want to say anything negative. And I'm like, how was it? You can really tell me. She was like, he's such a joy to have. We did hit a friend. And I'm like, okay, that is not a joy. That's not a joy. That's so nice. But I'm like, after he hit our friends, that's not a joy. She said, but I really enjoy him in my class. And I'm like, you can be honest. And being honest doesn't mean you're being negative. I'm not that parent that's going to get all upset. Some parents, you cannot tell them what their kid has done. You cannot say, oh, your kid hit today. My kid doesn't hit. You're like, oh. So I always remind my son's teacher, I'm not that mom that's going to get upset. I'm not that mom that expects you to teach him everything in a day. Like, I have to work on things at home. It all starts with home. You have to work on your kid at home. You can't expect a therapist to do miracles. You have to do the work too.
Yes. Yes. I'm glad you brought that up, because, it is, yes, he's in a lot of therapies, but I reinforce everything that we're doing, because at the end of the day, if it's not being reinforced at home, might as well not even go to the therapies. Might as well not even go. What, you just getting a break? And I know that sounds harsh, and I know that, because it's not easy doing some of the things I have to do with my son. Do you think I enjoy doing some of them? Oh, I don't.
And then when you send your kid to therapy, do not get mad at the therapist, because the therapist is telling you what your child's challenges are.
Yeah.
If you know more than them, then why are they in therapy? If the therapist says that you have to make your son or daughter sit at the table and eat their food and not get up and graze and play and come back, but they have to sit at the table and eat their food, do not get mad at the therapist, because they're telling you that's what your child has to do. That is what they should be doing. So, like, you want to cut a little slack with the people that are helping us. Some people are really get mad at therapists and yell at them and go off on them and, oh, my kid isn't this. Yeah, your kid is. That's why they're in therapy.
Exactly. But and how is that beneficial to the therapist? How's it beneficial to your child, right?
And it's
So
teachers like who are doing what they can. Like in an ASD class, you have like my son's class is like 9 kids, 9 different personalities, 9 different behaviors.
mm-hmm.
And my son contributes to a lot of those behaviors in the class. It's like, holy moly.
Mm-hmm.
I know when he's out of school on Friday, they're like, we got to break.
And that is when healing really starts. When you stop fighting a diagnosis and you start learning what it means to your child and your family and your future, the grief doesn't disappear overnight. It evolves, it softens over time, and it transforms into advocacy and strength and even joy.
Yes, I agree. Yes, that part right there. It is okay. It is okay to grieve. It is okay to be emotional. It is okay to feel all the feels sad, happy, mad, angry. You want to punch the air. You want to take it out on someone. It is okay to not be okay. It's okay to be in a fog and to be like, well, what is going on? There are so many groups out there. And this podcast. Watch this podcast. Subscribe to this podcast. Ask any questions you may have.
I can even join our group.
And join our group. And like, if you're an autism mom, an autism dad, and you want to be a guest on the podcast, let us know. Join us. We would love that. It doesn't matter where you live. We're in 2025 with technology. You could be in Ohio, Sweden. You could be wherever. Join us. And I mean, we would love to have more people share their experiences and tell us what they think and what they feel. And it's okay to feel all the feels. Some people feel so angry, and some parents blame themselves. It is not your fault at all. It's no one's fault. It's life. Life just be lifing. And I would like to thank you all for listening and tuning in to this podcast, Finding Your Identity. Thank you so, so much. We're going to have the merch coming soon and even the cups. And you can scan the QR code from the cups.
You are walking through fire right now, but fire defines you. And on the other side of that grief, well, there's a powerful waiting for you, a deep connection, a redefined purpose, and a deep love connection. So we invite you to give yourself grace, be in those feelings, breathe, and then, let's take those small steps forward. Take one step at a time. That's all you got to do. Take one step.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing the space with us today. If this episode brought up emotions for you, whether it would be tears, nods in recognition, or even just a sigh of relief that you know that you're not alone walking through on this episode. Grief and denial aren't signs that you are failing. They're signs that you deeply care. You can move forward on this journey. And sometimes it's okay. Like Kanika said, it's okay to be in your feelings. And in this space right now, just as you're starting out and you're feeling overwhelmed, I put a downloadable guide and some ebooks together for emotional support that can help you go through those first steps together. You can grab yours today in the show notes. If this episode resonates with you, please leave us a review, share it with any other parents or caregivers that are sitting in the same space who needs it. Remind them they are not alone.
And don't forget, you can join our Facebook group, Your Autism Journey. It is a community that is safe, encouraging, resourceful for parents like you all that are doing the best you can.
And share your resources too within the group. We all help one another.
Yes.
Remember, grief isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one that's filled with growth, discovery, and connection. We'll see you guys next week when we dive into more episodes. And it's okay to be in your moment. Keep walking your journey one step at a time. Today's episode of Finding Your Identity in Your Autism Journey is brought to you today by LifeWave X39 patches. As a parent of a child with autism, I am always looking for new tools that truly make a difference. Since my son has started using the LifeWave X39 patches, we have noticed incredible improvements. More joint attention, less aggression, and a reduction in his autism-related symptoms. I have started using them myself, and they've truly been a game changer for my energy, my focus, and my mood. These innovative patches use light to gently support your body's natural energy flow. For better wellness, try them out today and see a difference in yourself and even your kiddo. So you guys can visit my link below in the show notes to learn more and to support the show. Thank you for tuning in to Finding Your Identity in Your Autism Journey. I hope today's episode inspired you, brought you some clarity, or simply reminding that you are not alone. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and if you enjoyed this conversation, leave a review and share it with someone who might need it. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and together we can navigate this journey one step at a time.